Hi everyone, welcome to Ghostverse, where I talk about movies that mess with your mind. Today, I'm going to share with you 10 films that explore the theme of paranoia, the irrational and unshakable feeling that you're under threat even when there's no evidence of it. These movies artfully play with the sensation that everyone has experienced at some point that someone is secretly out to get them. Let's start with number 10. Pi. This is a surrealist experimental thriller by Darren Aronofsky, who is known for his intense psychological drama. Pi is about a paranoid mathematician who is searching for a number that will unlock the universe's natural pattern. The film explores themes of obsession, religion, and humanity's endless quest to make sense of a universe that always seems to elude rational understanding. Shot in striking high-contrast black and white, it's a movie that is every bit as visually staggering as it is narratively and thematically gripping. Number 9. The Machinist. This is a psychological thriller starring Christian Bale in one of the most tremendous physical transformations an actor has ever gone through for a role. He lost 60 pounds to play an insomniac industrial worker who starts to question his sanity after not having slept in a year. The film is deeply atmospheric, immersing the viewer in a moody character piece that slowly builds tension and mystery. As the protagonist tries to discover which of his co-workers is out to get him, Hell discovers what exactly has been causing his insomnia, and the audience is bound to be thrilled by the ride. Number 8. Take Shelter. This is a horror thriller by Jeff Nichols, starring Michael Shannon as a man plagued by apocalyptic visions, which have him question whether he should shelter his family from a coming storm or from himself. Slow but suspenseful, it's a horror thriller like few other. Beautifully shot, intelligently written, and with one of Michael Shannon's most powerful performances, Take Shelter is an enrapturing experience that's slow to reveal the answer to its mysteries, patient in portraying its protagonist's building sense of paranoia, and clever in constructing a hard-hitting third act. Number 7. The Manchurian Candidate. This is a seminal work of political intrigue, a neo-noir by John Frankenheimer about an American POW in the Korean War who's brainwashed as an assassin for a communist conspiracy. The film reads as quasi-prophetic nowadays, with many of its disturbing themes and socio-political messages still feeling relevant today. Mixing dark humor, nail-biting suspense, and moments that are genuinely scary, the film stands out as one of the best examples of its genre from the 20th century. Number 6. Eyes Wide Shut. This is the final film by Stanley Kubrick, regarded by many as the greatest filmmaker of all time. Eyes Wide Shut is a profoundly atmospheric drama about a doctor who embarks on a bizarre night of sexual adventure after his wife tells him about her fantasy. Impenetrably strange, just like Kubrick's most disturbing films, Eyes Wide Shut is an exceptionally interesting epilogue to the career of one of cinema's most treasured voices. Surreal, dark, almost hypnotic, the film is filled with erotic paranoia permeating its exploration of the deepest, darkest pits of the human psyche. Number 5. Repulsion. This is one of the scariest movies of all time, a psychological horror by Roman Polanski about a sex-repulsed woman who sinks ever deeper into depression, having horrific visions of sexual violence in the process. The movie is acutely disturbing, packing a hell of a punch with a great script and a brilliant Catherine Deneuve in the lead role. As you follow this deeply disturbed woman around, you feel that you have also lost touch with reality, inevitably starting to doubt what's real and what's not. Number 4. Marathon Man. This is a star-studded thriller by John Schlesinger, featuring Dustin Hoffman and Laurence Olivier in one of their most memorable roles. It's about a student who finds himself inexplicably chased by mysterious government agents. The performances are fantastic, of course, but that's not it. In fact, Marathon Man is often praised as one of the strongest Hollywood thrillers of the 20th century, conveying a strong feeling of post-Holocaust paranoia and following a protagonist that viewers can't help but feel desperately worried about. Number 3. Memento. This is one of Christopher Nolan's best works, a story in reverse chronological order about an amnesiac who tracks down his wife's killer. The movie's main premise is much more than a simple gimmick. It's an essential part of its examination of the astonishing lengths that people will go to in order to grant their lives some semblance of meaning. It's a phenomenal story by itself, but the way it's framed makes it all the more suspenseful and tense. Number 2. The Thing. This is the best version of The Thing, a sci-fi horror by John Carpenter about a research team in Antarctica that is hunted by a shape-shifting alien who can adopt the appearance of its victim. Set in a vast yet intimately claustrophobic backdrop, the movie succeeds at having the audience second-guessing everyone and everything at all times. You can never know when the next kill is going to come or who isn't who they say they are, but it sure is entertaining to try and guess. And finally, number 1, The Conversation. This is a masterpiece by Francis Ford Coppola, who released it in the same year as The Godfather Part 2. The Conversation is a first-rate mystery thriller about a paranoid surveillance expert who has a crisis of conscience when he suspects that the couple he's spying on will be murdered. Enigmatic and intelligent in ways that most thrillers can only dream of being, Coppola's masterwork is a stirring story about loneliness, surveillance, voyeurism, and the paranoia that can come from these things getting mixed. It's a terrific movie, but certainly not an easy one to get through. So, these are my 10 picks for movies that explore the theme of paranoia. What do you think? Do you agree with my list? Do you have any other suggestions? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more videos like this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.